Every year, hundreds of thousands of students send in their applications to Ivy League schools, but only a tiny fraction actually make it in. And if you've ever wondered why some students get accepted, whilst others who seem really qualified get rejected, this video is for you. Because here's the thing, it's not just about grades, test scores, or even extracurriculars. There is a pattern that makes great applicants stand out, and once you understand it, you can craft a profile that your dream schools can't ignore. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly what makes an Ivy League profile different from your average college application profile. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where your profile stands, and more importantly, what you can do to improve it. For those of you who are new here, my name's Jack Anderson. I'm currently completing my master's at Harvard on a full ride scholarship. And if you want free one-on-one college admissions support, fill out my website form at the top of the description, because I select one new student every single week to help them reach their dream school for free. Okay, let's dive into what makes an Ivy League versus average profile by first comparing the most obvious topic, which is grades. If you're applying to the Ivy Leagues, here's a reality check. Strong grades alone aren't going to get you in, but weak grades will absolutely keep you out. In an Ivy League profile, they take the hardest courses available, whether it's AP, IB, or a dual enrollment in both. They don't just go through high school coasting, and often it's not about the number of courses you take, but the number of courses available in your school. So if your school only offers 4 AP courses, then take all 4, and admissions officers will respect it as much as someone who took 10 AP courses from a well-resourced high school. But Ivy League students don't just have a 4.0. They rank highly in their classes, often being in the top 5% in their class. And that's because admissions officers compare how you stack up against your relative cohort, because that's the easiest way to understand how academically competitive you are. And then finally, and most importantly, they take coursework that aligns with their future goals. They don't just take impressive subjects that are difficult for the sake of it. They take the subjects that align with their future major that they plan to major in at this dream school. In comparison, an average profile has good grades, but they don't take the hardest courses available. They might have a 4.0 GPA, but they take really easy classes that isn't as impressive as a 3.8 GPA in rigorous classes. Their course selection is also all over the place with no clear academic focus, and they might have a big couple of B's and C's in there without showing an upwards trend towards improvement in their grades. The key takeaway here is that Ivy League schools aren't just looking for students who play it safe and get all A's. They want students who are pushing themselves academically in a way that makes sense towards their future ambitions. Okay, next up, let's compare extracurriculars and how it compares in an Ivy League versus an average profile. One of the biggest mistakes that students make is thinking that they need to do everything, including debate, sports, volunteering, student government, music, research, everything and anything they think they need to do. But the truth is Ivy League schools don't want to see students who do everything. They want to see students who do one thing exceptionally well. So let's factor that in as we compare the two profiles. For an Ivy League profile, they specialize in 1 or 2 areas and build an impressive track record in those areas. They earn national or international recognition, whether that's publishing research, winning major competitions, starting a big company, or launching an initiative with real impact, and they create something unique and innovative. On the flip side, for an average profile, they'll join 10 to 15 clubs, but not stand out in any of them. They'll hold generic leadership roles, and they'll have no clear focus with their extracurricular profile. The key takeaway here is the best applicants aren't just participants in extracurriculars. They are leaders, creators, and pioneers that care deeply about a specific field. The next area we need to compare is standardized test scores and whether or not they still matter. With some colleges going test optional, some students think that SATs and ACTs don't really matter anymore. But here's the truth. If your scores are strong, they can still be a game changer for you. So with that in mind, for an Ivy League profile, they have an SAT of greater than 1500 and ACT of greater than 34. And even though some of the schools might be test optional, they still strive to score amazing scores. On the flip side, if their college is test optional, then they compensate with elite extracurricular achievements or research to prove that they still have academic excellence. And on top of that, they typically take AP exams that demonstrate mastery in the field that they plan to go into. On the other hand, for an average profile, they usually have an SAT below 1500 and an ACT below 32. It's not bad, but it's not really competitive at top schools. And even when the colleges are test optional, they really don't have a profile that compensates for the fact that they didn't submit those test scores. So the key takeaway here is if you can get a top score, please submit it. And if your test scores aren't strong, then everything else in your profile really has to be exceptional exceptional to compensate. Now let's compare the essays of Ivy League profiles versus average profiles, and I think this is one of the make or break factors. Your grades and extracurriculars get you in the door, but the essays are what seal the deal. For an Ivy League profile, they will use storytelling to make the reader feel something. They will focus on personal growth rather than just listing their achievements and regurgitating their resume, and they sound authentic. It's written in their own voice and it doesn't sound like an over-polished essay. On the other hand, an average profile will write about cliche topics like working hard, overcoming failure, or just generic leadership stories. They will focus on what happened rather than why it mattered, and it sounds just like any other student's essay, not really making them unique, memorable, or in any way standing out. The takeaway here is the best essays don't just tell a story, they reveal something deeply personal about the student that the admissions officers won't find anywhere else in their application. If you want to see my personal statement that got me into Harvard on a full ride scholarship, you can check that out for free in the description, along with a 10-page personal statement guide that helps you craft your personal statement and a ton of other resources. And then the final comparison point we're going to be looking at today is recommendation letters, which is the most underrated game changer. I believe that most students underestimate how much letters of recommendation can influence admissions decisions. For an Ivy League profile, they get letters from teachers who know them exceptionally well at a personal level and can share real, meaningful anecdotes. Their recommendation letters will also highlight their intellectual curiosity, leadership, and impact inside and outside of the classroom, and the recommendation letters are adding a new depth to the Ivy League profile's application, showing what the student is like beyond their grades. On the other hand, an average profile has generic letters that say, this student is hardworking and responsible, and those types of phrases. It's written by teachers who don't know them really well, resulting in bland and forgettable recommendations, and there's no real personality behind the letters that are being written. So the key takeaway here is to really get to know your recommenders and make sure that they can vouch for you at a very personal level and share a lot of depth that is not currently presented in your application. So as we close out this video, you might be wondering, where does my application stand? Here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect in every single category I've listed here, but you do need to be exceptional in something, whether it's a world-class passion, an incredible essay, or a clear academic focus. The real difference between an Ivy League profile and an average profile is an average profile follows the rules and an Ivy League profile rewrites them. It's not about checking boxes, it's about crafting a story and profile that makes the admissions officers say, we need this student at our school. And as always, if you want free one-on-one college admissions support from myself, subscribe to the channel, fill out my website form, and hopefully you'll be selected. Good luck.